What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to How's It Going to End? How you doing? That's great. Today I am joined by Austin Archer, hilarious fucking social media like entrepreneur. This guy, I've seen his videos. The first video I saw of yours. Oh, first off, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited.
The
What's the
first
first
video,
video?
first video I saw yours was the guy proudly talking about how he won't date a girl who uses pronouns.
Oh yeah.
And then you did, and I had never like, I had just gotten TikTok, I think. Genuinely, like I was so I got TikTok like 2 months ago. I was so late to it. And everything else was kind of like, like fail videos as I'm scrolling through. And then I see like self-composed music and lyrics, and it's good sounding and it's funny. And so it threw me for a loop. And then I followed you on TikTok and Instagram. And I was like, this is the shit, dude.
Oh yeah, I'll hit you with the production value for sure. I'll hit you with like like it's gonna be a whole put together production. The funny thing about that too is it's like you just said it, a guy who won't date a girl who uses pronouns. And a lot of people in the comments were like, what's the big deal? Like, can't we have preferences? Like, I don't want to date some pronoun girl, like some pronoun liberal girl. And I'm like, the funny thing is that everyone uses pronouns.
like it's I made a whole thing about this. It's obvious they don't know. They're just
they don't know.
They're so focused on being like hatefully stupid that they're never going to educate themselves to understand, like, hey man, how would you want people to refer to you? He, like, there you go.
That's a pronoun. That's a pronoun. Yeah. If you go by he and him, then you use pronouns.
That's why I resonated so much with that video. I was like, oh, thank you for making a point and being funny.
Well, it's funny. A lot of people in the comments too were like, I think that he's joking. Like, I think that it's satire. And I'm like, okay, cool. Even if it is, there's still thousands of people in the comments section of this video who are like, yeah, I wouldn't date a girl with pronouns either. I'm like,
yeah. And like, I don't know. It's like, I hate when people give shit like that the benefit of the doubt, to be like, well, maybe. And it's like, well, there's also context clues. He's got like a Trump flag in the background. Yeah. It's just, but
well, and then if he is joking too, or if it is like satire, I'm always with stuff like that. I'm always like, I don't think it's funny. Like I'm like, if your entire account is like, here's the joke, is I'm gonna make a video to like outrage farm. Like, I'm just gonna like try to get people on both sides of the political spectrum mad and have them like yell in the comments. I'm always like, that's a dumb sense of humor that you have.
It's a weird sense of like stirring the pot for views, like for what,
I'm like, it's not a joke. Like, it's not like a funny joke. Like, you're just like, haha, see, I said something stupid, and then people responded to it. It's like,
they're trying to pretend like they're fucking Colbert on Comedy Central, it makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, it's like, no, you just said something like intentionally inflammatory, like to make people mad, and then when they got mad, you were like, haha, got you. And it's like, well, yeah, I guess, sure. Dude, I could like make a video denying that the Holocaust happened, and then when someone gets mad, be like, I was joking, you idiot.
And then the however many people that saw that video are however many people that saw the video listen to it as fact.
Yeah.
It's fucking, it's so harmful and damaging. But I saw a video the other day. It was a prank video where this guy goes up to this like he's dressed in some fucking fake security guard thing, and he walks up to this guy walking around. This guy has tattoos all over his arms, and he's just like shopping, He walks up to him and he's acting like he's security, and he goes, I want to see your ID, to this random fucking guy. And he has his friend down the hall filming like this is a fucking gag. And then the guy is like, why? Because I'm tattooed. You think what? I went to prison or something? And it like escalated to the point where the guy physically assaults the prankster. And people were like, wow, man, it's just a joke. And it's like, how do you walk into, I don't know what to do with my hands when I think about this. How do you walk into a situation like that and go like, oh, it's okay, I'll just let them know it's a joke and I won't get my ass beat?
Yeah. So I mean, prank videos are like the funniest thing. Well, not actually funny, but the funniest thing in a kind of like existential dread kind of way on the internet. Like these prank videos that kids watch that have tens of millions of views on YouTube and stuff. It's really disheartening, and a lot of times it's fake. Like, a lot of times they'll just fake stuff.
A lot of times it's all pre-planned and all that shit. But you can always tell when it isn't.
But when it's not, yeah, when it's something like that, where it's like, so the prank is just, I'm just doing awful things, like, and then when it gets trending, like stuff like, like the milk challenge, where people, the gallon challenge, where they were just taking gallons of milk and like throwing them on the ground in grocery stores.
Yeah.
Remember that a few years
Yeah.
ago? It's like, well, and to be fair, I did shit like this when I was a teenager, because when you being a teenage boy is just like, you're just a bad person for some reason. Like I was, at least, like we just like did bad stuff and thought like,
because
there was
there was never any check and balance. It was like, oh,
yeah.
Boys will be boys, or just they're having fun and all that shit. And it's so wrong.
You don't go to jail. If you get caught, people are like, I'm gonna tell your parents, and like your parents are like gonna get mad at you. And then you're like, okay, well, but like my friends and I talk about this all the time. Like, if we did the stuff we did when we were teenagers, we would go to jail. Like, we would, like, I'd lose my job. I'd like lose, like, and that's not the only reason not to do that stuff. You get older and you're like, oh, we thought that like property damage was funny. Like, we thought that like vandalizing someone's house was like, haha, got you. It's crazy that you can get that idea. I think you get that idea from watching like teen movies and stuff. I don't want to be a proponent of the idea that movies make kids do bad stuff. But yeah, this like idea that like it's funny to like throw a gallon of milk on the ground in the store and then leave, and some person who works at that store has to clean it up. And I don't think that you really understand that as a kid. Like, I don't think that you get, but then a lot of these people who make these prank channels on YouTube who are like in their 20s, you're like, oh, well, then you're just a piece of shit. If you're like an adult and you're still doing this stuff.
And it's all reaction provoking. It's just, you just want to get the views, and then someone sees that shit on a trend, because it'll always be trending. It'll never be like the genuine like content trending on YouTube or whatever. And then someone will see that and then they'll go and do that shit. And that's why you hear about like bomb threat pranks and all that shit. And there's never any, like, I don't even know. These guys don't know what, I don't know. It's just, I saw that one particularly and it infuriated me because the guy was just fucking shopping and now he's got to deal with this fucking like pipsqueak bothering him.
Do you think it comes from like Jackass, like being willing to put your safety on the line for a joke and stuff, and like that kind of idea of like Johnny Knoxville is going to go and box Butterbean the boxer in a store and like get his ass knocked out? I think that people see that stuff and they're like, oh, I can do that. I think what they don't understand is that like a Jackass level production or like an Eric Andre level production, like there are certain safety structures put in place where like it looks a lot more dangerous than it actually is. It is dangerous. Or a Sacha Baron Cohen thing, right? It is dangerous, but it's still like controlled to a certain degree. And maybe that's it. And
it's not just also a pal with an iPhone down the aisle,
Yeah. It's like there's like a professional film crew there. And if Sacha Baron Cohen gets himself in a situation that where it looks like, okay, we got to step in, there's people standing by ready to step in and ready to like talk about what's going on. That's not to say that he doesn't put himself in situations that are like crazy where it's like,
no, I mean, you hear him talk about that one in I think it was the wrestling match in Bruno? When he talked, they had to escort him out, and they were like, he said he was like locking the door. He was like pressing himself against the ambulance door to keep it closed because people were trying to tip it.
That's how violently homophobic people can be, is just the image of just seeing these two guys like making out enraged them to the point of being like, the fact that you made me watch that, I'm going to try to kill you. I'm going to try, and it's like that dangerous that they're throwing chairs and throwing beer bottles and then trying to get into the ambulance that they were in. Or
there's the extra footage of the latest Borat where he's in another ambulance and he's telling the driver, don't stop, keep driving, just whatever you do not stop. It's just,
like going to a Mike Pence rally and dressed up as Donald Trump with a girl over your shoulder. It's like, that guy's got the Secret Service there. Like they don't know who you are. You could be like like some kind of like extremist, some Antifa extremist who's got like a bomb strapped to your chest or something. Like they don't. It's really, there are risks that he takes with, but I don't know. There's also a socio-political message attached to these risks that he's taken
to every single one he's done.
there's something he's talking about that's relevant to society, and it's not just being a dick for the sake of being a dick and for the sake of getting views. There's a point to it, you know, going to a rodeo and singing the words of the Kazakhstani national anthem to the American national anthem and having everyone like freak
And
out.
where was he? Was it like Alabama or is one of
Yeah,
those?
he was like at some rodeo, and he was,
Jesus.
you know, but it's like that. It's brave in a different way, and it's also there to expose something about American nationalism and racism and xenophobia and stuff
And he
like
had that great show during the 2016 election, or was it, where he went around neighborhoods and he let families know, like, oh well, just let you know, or he did for the 9/11 area, that they're gonna put the best new mosque there, and it's like that's exactly that. It's picking at people to see how they react, and very often you find out how they would genuinely react to that kind of shit, and it's horrifying.
Yep, and it's saying something more than, and Jackass isn't necessarily doing that, you know. Jackass is like, but I still think that the Jackass stunts are much more structured than a YouTuber with
also
a phone,
I mean,
you know?
like Jackass, like they always had like those public ones, like the golf shit where they would play they would blow the air horn and all that.
Yeah.
The majority of the time they were kicking the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
The majority of the time. And like it's also interesting hearing like Steve-O now and Knoxville now talk about it. And they're like, yeah, I mean, like they did the hot ones I watched, and they were talking about how, like, yeah, they just fucked with each other. They would like just because they knew all bets were off with each other, at least. Because they knew they can't go up to someone and punch them in the dick or piss on them, which is like, sure, I guess if that's what you do with your friends, but
yeah, they're not usually in those videos fucking with random people on the street.
Yeah,
the way that they're fucking with people on the street is by doing stuff to each other in public.
Yeah,
and by like just having people see it, just being like, oh, what the hell's going on? Like,
exactly.
You know, Preston Lacey is chasing Wee Man down the street, and they're both in their underwear, and everyone's like watching, and like that's it. Like that's, you know, yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. That's when they announced a fourth one, I was so tentatively excited, just because, you know, it was like, I don't know. I was I think I might have been 13 when the last one came out, or younger, and I saw that in theaters, which I should not have. I saw that in theaters with friends, and I think a couple adults with us, and I was like, this is just some like whole other level shit. And I also saw Borat at like a sleepover. And that was like 2006. I watched it. I was like, I think I might have been 9 years old or something like that. Yeah. Way too young for Borat. And then watching that stuff come back now, it's like, it's nice. This is the kind of nostalgia I'm looking forward to. Yeah, man. It all plays. So like, this is actually kind of a great transition. It all plays. The majority of it plays into such a high level of like toxic masculinity and all that kind of shit. And we talked a lot about that on your podcast. You want to promote that real quick?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we talked about the Fast movies on my podcast, and we had I don't think we talked at length about these movies, and we didn't get through it because it's a lot to get through. I think we covered it for anyone who's like a novice on the topic, but we were talking about the kind of brand of masculinity and toxic masculinity that's on display in those movies. I definitely even think like the trailer for the new Jackass came on while we were at the movie theater the other day, and I realized that like my girlfriend's not excited at all about that movie. Like it's like such like guy stuff.
It's 100% dude bros that are. This is like a passive sense of like, I'm gonna go see Fast 9 and then I'm gonna go see Jackass 4. You know.
Well, and girls don't think it's funny to hurt your friends, you know, like
that's such a simple guy thing.
Yeah, like I'm gonna like hurt my friend. I'm gonna come up behind my friend with a fucking pair of clippers and just like take a chunk out of his hair. If a woman did that to another woman, she might be sued for like assault. Like you violently assaulted me.
That, you know? I mean, that stuff. The only times that has happened, it's when it's like there's murder on the end of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, you slept with my husband, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
You cut my hair. You came up and cut my hair.
Yeah.
Like how it's such a, and it really is a fucked up thing to do. And for some reason, and I, like, that's not how my friendships are. Like my
No, no,
friendships
no,
with
no, 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 no.
my guy friends, we're not like constantly like, oh, like go
Yeah.
over, like push him down that hill. Like it's like we're old and we can get hurt.
Yeah.
And like,
I mean,
you
the
know,
majority of them are like almost like they're in their 50s now. So let's see how many fucking broken hips
yeah.
there are in this new one.
Yeah, I don't know why I still laugh at it, because I do, but yeah, it is
I
that.
can't
It's
help
that
it.
there's something about, even though I can make fun of the toxic masculinity in the Fast films,
Yeah.
I'm still like watching them and studying them as like a
There's
film
also
fan
like a
and as
whole
a
sense, there's a whole sense of like, I don't even know how to like friend, like there's a whole homoerotic thing throughout the thing with the Jackass guys, where like they're always naked with each other all the time. They're always like, bro, I fucking punched your dick while you were sleeping and we were both naked. And that plays a lot into like they don't take that kind of shit seriously. You see that the bounds of their relationships are not, it's not to that point of like, hey bro, I'm not going to do anything with my pants off. They always all have their pants off.
I think I read an article somewhere, maybe it was a Twitter thread or something, that was about how like that form of humor amongst men is like a substitute for not being able to be physically affectionate with each other.
100%.
Not being able to like show physical affection with your friends translates into like, well, then we'll like sort of wrestle, or we'll do pranks where we're like shirts off, like hugging, but like kind of like
100%.
violently. And it will substitute for this way, it's reminiscent of like the joke that Cartman plays on Butters in South Park, where he puts Butters' balls in his mouth while he's asleep. And then he takes a photo
exactly.
and he's like,
it's
look
exactly
how gay Butters is. He's got a photo of him with Butters' balls in his mouth.
My god, that's so fucking, that's, see, but now why does that like hit my fucking my funny bone so hard?
I think that they're onto something with that joke, with being, it's that joke of like being like, look how gay you are, that I put your balls in my mouth while you were asleep, and like, ha ha ha, joke on you.
Oh my god, that's so fucking funny. But yeah, let's just say that Vinny D would never do that with anybody, and if anything, he would put his balls in someone else's mouth.
Yeah, well, there's a funny kind of thing there going on there too, where there's like the guy love in these movies, like the family and but then there's also this weird protective of like, it doesn't matter that Dom is devoted to Letty and to this to his life with her. Once a movie, they've got to go to a party with a bunch of scantily clad girls, where Vin walks around the room and is like, oh yeah, he's like, this is my scene, these are my people.
Yeah,
and it's just kind of like, wait, hold on, like, aren't you like you're in a committed monogamous relationship with this woman? But he's just like, that doesn't mean I can't go to a party and like slap some ass.
Exactly that. It's exactly that. And genuinely, I don't know how at this point in these movies they can fit a casual race into them, and then they get to go and there's some pop star calling 3, 2, 1, and it's just like, and the tracking shot is always at butt cheeks as soon as you get in, and it zooms out, and then everyone cheering and doing a bunch of shit, and you're right, it's exactly, they're standing there and they're like, this is where you belong, around all these like barely clothed women and like a couple dudes being like, look at all these butts and boobs, guys. Oh my God, that's exactly what it is.
I think there's even a line in one of the movies, it might be in the 7th movie, in Paul Walker's last movie, where they go to one of those parties, they go to one of those drag racing parties, and Paul Walker's like, feel familiar? And Vin Diesel's like, feels like home. Like, it's like something like that. I'm like, this is what feels like home and family.
Like, hey man, I know your wife. Like, I'm very close with you and your wife. I'm dating you. I'm married to your sister. I'm
married to your sister. We're like at this like really sketchy party, and it's like, feels like home.
Jesus.
Yeah, cool. So this story, I think that you sent to me, I think is really funny, and it's also, we talked about this a little bit on my show too.
Yeah, so I think it was before then that it came out that just to recap for people who don't know how much of a fucking cockface Vin Diesel is, he talked about how he would like pester and fuck with Dwayne Johnson on the set of the Fast movies to pull a better performance out of him. Because he was trying to challenge him. He wanted to take him out of the eyes that everyone saw him in the WWE because, you know, he quit doing the WWE fucking like 8-9 years ago. And he wanted to lift him up into the cinematic world and pull a performance out of The Rock. And
that's what kills me about Vin Diesel too. And we talked about this a little bit on my show, but is this like this kind of like self-importance that he has about these movies, that he wants to think of these movies and think of himself in them as like a real artist. Like they're making, yeah. And like, you know, he's doing shit like who does he think? Is he trying to be Daniel Day-Lewis here on the set of the Fast movie? Is he Shia LaBeouf? Is he Jared Leto as the Joker? Like, who do you think you're playing? You're playing Dominic Toretto in the Fast movies. They're a silly franchise of movies. No one takes them seriously. And when he talks about these movies, when he does like Instagram lives, or not Instagram, he's famous for his Facebook lives. But when he does like Facebook live streams, he'll be like, you know, I'm here with Michelle, and like we're talking about our mythology and like where we want to take this story and like how we want to adapt these characters that we've built. I'm like, dude, shut up. Like, it's no one thinks of these movies the way that you think. Just
drive fucking cars and go around explosions and punch bullets and shit. Like, that's all you need to do.
Your character is a guy who, no matter what situation he's in, he wears a white t-shirt and jeans, and he drives a black muscle car, a black Dodge Charger, and he uses a silver pump action shotgun in any situation. And he's the strongest guy in the world. No one takes you seriously. No one's like, dude, his performance in that last movie was like, it's not like when you watch, we talked about this on my show too. Like, it's not like when you watch Mission Impossible 3 and you're like, well, shit, like Tom Cruise in that movie, the acting is and then you got Philip Seymour Hoffman doing one of the best villains in cinema history in that movie. It's not like that, where you have these moments where you're like, damn, that movie was entertaining, but also like had some depth to it. No one thinks that about the Fast movies. And
that's the best part is you have this just, it's not even the right word to say childish for the Fast, amateur. That's a perfect fucking word to describe it. This amateur franchise, and that everything handled in it is handled immaturely. Yeah. And then you have, and that's, you know what? Fine. But go along with that. You can't be allowed to do it both ways and have, you know, and be like, I was trying to like on fucking Inside the Actors Studio being like, and then I thought, what would Dominic Toretto do? Like, it's such a crock of shit. And
you gotta imagine Dwayne Johnson seems like the kind of guy too who like gets it, and who's like who's probably like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
exactly.
Like, bro,
exactly.
We're making fast car punch movie. Like, come on.
I don't think he's the only. I think genuinely everyone. I mean, we know everyone in the staff is like this. Everyone in the crew, everyone in the cast has to be like, listen, man, this is just gonna make $1 billion. It's gonna be an easy fucking cash day, and then we're gonna just like do some wire gags and some wild shit. Or I'm gonna watch my stunt double do some wire gags, and that'll be it. And then you see Tom Cruise doing a Mission Impossible movie, and they're just as ridiculous. They're just as like, every movie they have to do something bigger. I understand you have to do that. How else are people going to come to see every movie? It makes complete sense. However, you don't have Tom Cruise. I mean, he's serious about making the movies, but he's not going around being like, Ethan Hunt, now what are you doing this time? Where are you, Ethan Hunt? Let me get in your mind. Like, he doesn't do that phony fucking shit.
You don't have a story from Henry Cavill on the set of the movie being like, Tom was pretty antagonistic toward me, and then Tom's like, yeah, I really wanted to see if I could find some truth to the interplay. It's
he had been doing Superman. I wanted to bring him into real cinema. Like, it's such a crock of shit when Vin does that. But at the same time,
understands that those movies are about the stunts, and he understands that those just, you know, and also he's good at playing the Ethan Hunt character, but I think he also knows like, I don't need to like figure out where's the next level of emotional.
This isn't Collateral. I don't have to put on some kind of, or you know, I mean, like, it's just so hard because then you don't see, and not only that, like, above all of that, like taking the phoniness seriously or not taking it seriously, at least he's actually doing it. At least Tom Cruise is strapping himself to a plane or doing the halo jump or going to space for the next 2 or whatever it is. And then to have like Vin be like, I take this phony ass shit seriously, even though it's phony and I'm not actually doing it. It's such a I don't even know how to describe it.
Well, and look, the actor in me, because I do that too. I'm an actor, and like,
yeah, I saw you doing all your stunts, lighting yourself on fire and just falling down the stairs.
I was trying to be like Tom Cruise, and I had no idea I was going to be doing that. By the way, I got this thing, and then
you said that
every single day they were just like, "Hey, could you fall down the stairs today?" And I was like, "What do you mean fall down the stairs?" They're like, "We mean like fall down the stairs." And I was like, yeah, let's try it out. And then like, can we light you on fire today? But I understand that sometimes actors get into a career doing one thing. Like maybe it's a TV show where they're just like, this is just what it wound up being, and the TV show's a hit. And now I've been on this TV show. Like say you're like on CSI or something, and you're like, well, this show's been running for 12 years. It's a good gig. I've made a shit ton of money. I've bought a couple houses, and like I'm set up because of this, but it's also sort of made it so like, this is what I do. And this is sort of like the best acting I'm going to get to do. A lot of these people, like if you watch the movie Val with Val Kilmer, you think of Val as just being like a movie star, but you watch that movie and it's like, no, he's an actor who wanted to do real acting, who like got into acting because he has a passion for the craft. And there's a chance that Vin Diesel too is like this guy who like probably is like, I want to do real acting. I want to be able to like, I like the process of getting into what that character is experiencing and trying to get to the emotional truth of something. And since his career is now about these movies, these movies are his best shot to like exercise his craft. So I really, really get that. And I get, but also part of me, because like we were introduced to Vin Diesel in Saving Private Ryan, you know, like that's the movie that he kind of had, probably was his first biggest credit. And it's it's this like really, really serious film with one of Hollywood's top directors. And part of me wants to go like, well, maybe Vin, what you need to do is tell your team, your management team and your agent, like, I want to try my hand at find me like an indie role. Give me a Nick Cage thing. Like, give me a weird role where I'm like, you know, he's getting older now. So like, maybe he can transition into doing some weird movies like Pig or something.
He can exercise those muscles that he's always
try something out, you know. But also I'm like, part of me's like, does he have the chops? Like, does he actually have the chops?
And that's the best part. That's the best part is I don't fucking think he does.
I don't think he does.
I don't think he's got enough to like lead some intimate story with a performance. I just can't see it fucking
Chances
happening.
are people have read him for things. Chances are they've probably gone like, hey, let's give him a shot, because everyone loves seeing people play against type in something and go like, oh wow, cool, what a cool turn for you. But like maybe they've read him for stuff and just gone like, it's just not there. Like, you know, like his career's been so post Saving Private Ryan, his career's been so like largely silly that, and so I get it that like he wants to try to do some serious acting, and so that he's trying out some method stuff, and he's, you know, and I think you see that from time to time where someone's like, well, if this is what I get to do is this movie, I'm gonna try to make this movie my Hamlet, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But it kind of makes it more silly, because it's like the fast movies would probably be better served by everyone in them just trying to have fun and really trying to lean into the fact that like these movies exist to have fun. And if you try to embrace that aspect of it, of like, what can I do to give the audience the best experience and like make sure that everyone's having like optimal fun. And it feels like when you watch those movies that everyone's having fun, but he's taking it really seriously and everyone else is just trying to have a good time, you know?
Exactly. And it's clearly brought up by the fact that like, if you ask anybody, except for the people that Tom Cruise yelled about COVID, if you ask anybody on the Mission Impossible crew, it's unbelievable. It's so eerie how many nice things they have to say about him. And then compared to, I mean, with this article released by Screen Rant, I think last week, that I was so excited to talk to you about, apparently after Dwayne Johnson kind of like stirred shit, like pushing back on Vin Diesel and all that, well, after his prime performance as Hobbs I can't say it seriously. Apparently, members of the crew like reached out to him and thanked him. And I have the exact quote. He said, it caused a firestorm. Interesting enough, every single crew member found their way to me and either quietly thanked me or sent me a note. And you gotta know when that happened. Like, it's like being in New York after finding out, or like being around the world after finding out that Trump lost and hearing the world cheer. You have to know, maybe it's me, right?
Yeah.
There has to be some part of you to be like, I don't understand. Millions and millions of people don't like me. Makes sense. Or the entire crew that I've been working with for 9 movies don't really like me.
I wonder if he has some people who are like his personal team on the like his makeup person or his like wardrobe person that like works with him specifically, who he's like, hey, am I an asshole? And they're like, no, man, no, everyone loves you. You know, like, who knows? Like, people like that are really good at surrounding themselves with yes people because,
oh my God,
you know, even though the world is cheering for Donald Trump losing the election, surely in Donald Trump's world, he's surrounded still by people who are like, like showing him the outrage of people who are certain that the election was stolen, you know? And so I don't know, but if he's getting the hint, but I do think that it's like, you just see stuff like that where like now they can't work together on those films. Like Dwayne Johnson had to start his own franchise with Jason Statham. Like they had to spin off and they can't work together on those films anymore. And it really is just so silly. It's just this ego thing where, again, we talked about this earlier, but again, like that clause that they had that when they get in a fight, they have to exchange an equal amount of punches. And you know that just like reeks of Vin was the one who really had that clause where he was just like
100%.
I can't lose a fight to this guy. And his whole thing where he's like, I have to be the strongest character in the franchise. Dominic has to be the strongest guy in the franchise. And having Hobbs there means that everyone's going to be like, well, you're not the strongest guy in the franchise anymore. But even in this latest movie, it's like, you don't look stronger than John Cena. You don't look like you could beat John Cena in a fight. Like, you know, but
it's so ridiculous.
He's got to have it where he's the strongest guy. And it's just like, well, no one actually believes that in a fist fight, you're going to beat Dwayne Johnson.
Or what was that flying fucking headbutt in the 7th one in the cargo plane?
Yeah.
Remember that when he's fighting another just giant behemoth and he just fucking flies at him with his fucking dome. Makes no fucking sense. And and then it's like, I want to know what was going through your head, Vin, when you're in the middle of the air, tied up to fucking wires, just headbutting that guy. Well, I was thinking about, does this guy have a family? What is his family? Like, it's such a crock of shit the way he tries to pull substance out of these movies. It infuriates me. And we talked about how much I get like physically jittery, angry thinking about when they're flying in space and Ludacris goes, the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. Fuck you. That makes me so upset because the numbers do lie. You're in a fucking like a muscle car going to space and you
might as well look into the camera and be like, good thing physics and science prove that we can do this. Good thing that science backs us up on this. And just look straight into the camera and be like, it's a good thing that science and math and physics say that we can have this moment in this movie right now. Go look it up. I fucking dare you. Go home and look it up. Just like,
and it's
it's so funny.
And it's just awful. And it's so mind-boggling how, and then, you know, like my another thing, my least favorite argument, frankly, about these movies is like, hey man, you know what? They make no sense, but they're still entertaining. And at some point, are they?
I know.
Can you sit in a theater and watch these movies and not have some part of it distract the entertainment? Because entertaining is like, to me, I could think peak entertaining is the last couple minutes or the last 10 minutes of the most recent Mission Impossible, the helicopter chase all the way to the detonation of the nuke.
Yeah.
And I watched that in theaters and I was on the edge of my seat by the time he turned the nuke off. And I was like, holy fuck, I don't remember the last time I was in a movie theater and I was kind of like inching closer to the giant screen. And I can't do that with a Fast and Furious movie.
Well, it's action sequences that are so entertaining and watchable too, because you know what's going on behind the scenes as well. And it feels so much more impressive when Tom Cruise is like climbing up that rope to get to the helicopter and he's hanging off that thing. And you're watching that going like, that's like, for all intents and purposes, like that's real. And it's the same thing of watching any one of the John Wick movies where you're watching these sequences where it's like these big, wide open takes of these fight scenes. And you're like, damn, this is some gorgeous choreography. And it's really thrilling to feel like what you're watching was really like cared for and took time for everyone involved to make it look as good as it did. And it just has like an element of like artistry to it. And it's like watching the hallway fight scene in Inception or something, where you're just like the technical mastery on display here to catch this practically in camera in this set, and what they had to do to coordinate this is so fun to watch every time. If it's on TV, like I want to tune in to catch that. And the Fast movies, it's like, it's fun to watch once, to go to the theater and just kind of see what they're up to, just kind of see what they're going to do. And then, but at no point am I like, whoa, that was cool. I'm just all constantly like, give me a fucking break. Like I'm just constantly like laughing my ass off because it's so silly. It's so silly how little stakes there are in those action sequences that just no one's ever in danger of anything. The craziest things will happen, and they do things like it was all part of the plan. Like Letty gets blown off her motorcycle and like falls off a cliff, and Dom just sort of like slides in and catches her on the hood of his car as though it was like, that's like, and he's like, yeah, gotcha. Like get in the car now. And it's like, the fuck are you talking about? That's insane. That's chaos. Like that's just like, you're just like, oh, let me just get over here and catch you with my car. It's like, no, she's dead.
So, or she's not dead. It was a memory, and that all happened years ago, and she's coming back and she has a star and a kid, and it's like, fuck off.
Those movies really did become a soap opera, and in the writing and stuff, and it's fine. It's like in many ways the MCU has soap operaed itself and so, but and stuff, but I don't know. The things that make the MCU work are like, it's like character and character relationships that you really care about.
Likability.
And what knowing really what each person cares about and what their goals are, and being really intimately acquainted with like underneath the surface of who they are as a superhero. What do they care about? Like what's going on underneath? And that's what's really interesting about those movies, is like what's going on underneath. Tony's whole thing is just like he's just sort of, he can't escape this idea that he's responsible for saving the world. Like that it all falls on his shoulders at the end of the day. Even with this team of super friends, he feels the responsibility to be like, at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. I've got to be the guy to do it. And then like, Steve has this whole thing where underlying his thing is he's just like, really, I would, as much as like I feel a responsibility to like help out, I always felt like I missed a shot to just like be a regular guy, and just like get to have like a regular life. And then there's like that, what a great development with Thor to be like, what's underneath all of this is after 1,500 years and thousands of battles and being immortal, at the end of the day, he's just kind of like, shit, none of it really mattered. Like I wasn't able to save anyone, wasn't able, and that I just think character development and stuff like that, where like you can be as ridiculous as you want to be. If I care about those people, then I'll tune back in to watch, because I like watching, because the Fast franchise like really could have gone places with these characters where like I could have been tuning back in to be like, I'm really invested in the drama here, instead of just being like, everything makes me roll my eyes because it's just so silly and self-important and like manufactured, and doesn't feel like it's really like, everything just feels like, let's just give Dom a brother just to have something that makes it dramatic. But it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense though. He can't just all of a sudden have a brother, it's so.
They're going to cast some, what I saw the other day? They're making another fucking Expendables. I didn't know that.
Of course.
But that's like that's just, I mean, but that one is like Martin Scorsese ruined using the phrase amusement park, but it's like you go there to see all your childhood people, like you see Stallone and Schwarzenegger and all of them, and now they got Megan Fox, and you go there for strictly the people. I don't go to see Fast and Furious for Ludacris and Tyrese and Vin Diesel and whoever they're gonna put into it now. Like, I don't.
Yeah,
I physically can't.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not nearly as invested in those characters and in those people. And the amount of character development that they've done is so negligible over the course of 9 films, where you're just like, no one's different. No one's like no one's learned anything. No one's had like a mental health crisis in any one of these movies. No one's ever like nothing's changed. No one's
the only thing that's changed is they're all suddenly have backgrounds in Muay Thai fighting and hacking, and they used to be just fucking punks who used to race cars, and now they all have some kind of what was the line that they kept using in I think it was a 7 or whatever. It was like, oh yeah, you don't know everything about me or some bullshit like that, and it's like, so then you are what? You're from another planet, like you can do anything. It's unfair.
I had a life before you met me, you know, that whole thing.
That's what it was. That's exactly the line. It's like, fuck off, man. I don't give a shit. How about that? How about move on?
Yeah. How about like just like have some flaws? How about just like there's some things that you're not good at? How about that? How about like some of you are good at one thing, but you're not good at other things? Like, how about that? Like, no, we're all expert fighters, we're all expert drivers, we're all expert hackers, we're all expert like planners. We're, you know, and then finally in the 9th movie, someone's at least going like, are we immortal? And it's like, yeah, I guess, sure, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so funny. And it's gonna happen. I mean, you have the guy who plays, you know what, I just literally saw this actually. The guy who plays young Dominic Toretto has a whole idea of how to bring The Rock back into the last movie, because apparently there's going to be 2 more, and then the last one, which should have been, that's when you start calling it the Fast Saga, you fucking assholes. I hate the 9th movie called the Fast Saga. Like, what?
Well, that's also part of it, is just the naming of the movies, which is just it's almost like the studio or the writers or whoever have committed to this idea that like we're going to be intentionally silly with the names of the movies. They're going to make no linear sense. And, you know, I mean, so like that at this point, it's like, well, you gotta just keep being. Yeah. And if the next one's not called FX, which would make sense.
That would make complete sense.
It would make sense, but like they're not going to do it because it makes sense.
It's going to be called fucking Fast Infinity or some bullshit.
Yeah.
Infinity is the perfect fucking word they would use for that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And like I just saw this. You have the young Dom actor trying to find a way to bring The Rock into the last one, because otherwise, like, do you know how Fast 9 did at the box office this year? Did it do all right?
I think it was like one of the top earning movies of the year.
That's interesting. Okay, well, I that's what I was thinking. I was like, they brought Dwayne Johnson in because your franchise was failing.
Yeah.
They injected him into several franchises at the time. He was known as franchise Viagra. He revitalized, you know, all these shitty franchises, and he helped them make money. And now to be like I was pulling him up from the world of the WWE. I brought him up to our ranks, and it's just.
So this is an offshoot of the topic. You know, I think like. Yeah, we could talk all day about the toxic masculinity of Vin Diesel and his self-importance and his feud with Dwayne Johnson. But speaking of Dwayne Johnson, and speaking of kind of up and down and topsy-turvy franchises, do you have time to talk about DCFanDome?
Oh yeah. And I wanted to so badly.
Yeah, so because DC is so fascinating as a DC fan too. It's that like going to see the movie The Suicide Squad and being like, as entertaining as I found that film, I still was like, this does nothing but confuse me more about the DC extended universe. It's just kind of like, what is going on here? What's happening here?
Exactly.
What is this place? what is the tone of this place? What is the color palette of this place?
Mhm.
Is this in that universe, or are we in like a parallel, like, because now that we have Flashpoint, like
Mhm.
could the Suicide Squad take place in like an alternate, like it just doesn't, I'm like, is this the same universe as Suicide Squad by David Ayer, or is this a different, it's just one of those things where like, and then as I watch the trailers for the new movies, I'm just sort of like, I'm so confused about what the continuity of any of this is,
Yeah.
and what
So
like like
that's, I mean, it makes and you know what sucks the most about that, from at least the way, like when I think about that, is you have all these other franchises, you have all these other studios trying to, because the golden fucking goose is the MCU when it comes
right.
to that. They had a fucking a single, and it's perfect to lead into with the, like the multiverse. They had a single line of continuity that didn't budge, and it was self-referential, and you have a history there, and that's a special fucking thing, especially for movies, and if you want to have people coming back to the movies. So following that, you have all these fucking studios and all these franchises in some way or another trying to mimic that formula, and people get tired. I always talk about like the idea of it's a formula, it's a recipe, you know, to create this sense of perfect continuity that every studio is trying to mimic, and every studio is failing at, like, pathetically.
Well, and it's weird because the formula seems pretty straightforward too.
Yeah,
And
and that's the best.
everyone gets it wrong in like really basic
Yeah.
ways, where it's just sort of like, oh, the formula was we're going to establish all of our main characters with their own film before we do a team up, before we do a collaborative film. We're going to make sure that we take the time and the patience to like lay the groundwork so that we can introduce you to all of our main players and characters first, so that now when we do a team up, you already know or have a good idea of like who each person is, kind of what they're like, how they function in this world. And now when they're all together, it's exciting to see how those differing objectives and motivations play off of each other. And all these other things, like they go to the team up too quick. They kind of shoot their load too quick. Like they're too quick to like, they, you know, like even with Zack Snyder's Justice League, even though it's an infinitely better film than the theatrical release, it's still something where it's like, if this had come out in theaters, I still would be like, I don't like, I would rather have a Cyborg movie and a Flash movie first, just so that when this happens, I can go, oh, how cool to have all these people together now that I had a chance to get to know. I want to know more about what drives Barry Allen to do what he does. And I know that there's comic books, and I know that Barry Allen's been a character for a really long time. So has Captain America.
I think it's unrealistic when people go look into the source material. When people bring that point up, it makes no sense. You shouldn't have to.
I need to know what makes this Barry Allen, this specific Barry Allen, because there's lots of different Barry Allens. I need to know what makes Ezra Miller's Barry Allen tick. Why, you know, other than him just being kind of quirky and good at one-liners and being, you know, just like the comic relief for the movie. It's like, well, in order, and then obviously Zack Snyder wanted Cyborg to be the heart of the group and the film, and that comes through a lot clearer in his cut. But it's still like, well, give me a movie with like, what an interesting story. Like, give me his movie first, and then continue to develop on that. And then the order that they went was so wrong with these films too, to be like I remember there was a moment in Wonder Woman 1984 where I was like, yeah, see, this is interesting to see her feeling kind of lonely and out of place in 1984, being like, everyone that I ever made friends with sort of died years ago. I don't really age. It's been a long time since I've been home. I wish I could have that sense of family again. And then if we got Justice League after that movie, to have her like find her family, and it would be a better payoff for the character arc, to be like, okay, this person who's like felt sort of lost and displaced and looking for family, but everything's out of order. And then also there's all these movies like Shazam and like Suicide Squad, where it almost feels like they're like, this is in the universe, but it's not. Like, it's sort of like an offshoot of the universe.
It's
sort of
so frustrating.
And it's sort of like, okay, well, but so what are we
doing?
And
my main issue with that is, and it's so unbelievably frustrating, but my main issue with that is, it's like, at some point, how many times are you going to get punched before you think to duck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
stop. Like, it's so hard to like watch like, because it's all like executive decisions, and it's all these people being like, no, this will make the most money. No, this will make the most money. And whenever it comes down to that, you're taking a already bad situation and you're making it worse. You're taking something that like, I will fucking die saying that like they only made Wonder Woman set in 1984 because they wanted to mostly cash in on the 80s nostalgia. 100%. That's
Totally.
it. And when they do that, what happens when you do that? You fuck up the history of her starting from World War I all the way to Justice League, because there's no. And I know that like my main problem with that is that when you try to tie yourself down to one continuity, you restrict all these other kinds of stories that you're able to tell, that you don't have to benchmark at some point in time or place, or reference with another character happening to be in the same time.
Well, we have weird problems too. Like, okay, so she's got the ability to use force fields to make things invisible. And if that comes up in 1984, then where is it in Justice League?
That's the problem.
Like now we have timeline issues where it's like, well, we've introduced this like very like big power of hers. Also, they had this like they made a big meal out of her flying in 1984. And I'm like, she flies at the end of the first Wonder Woman movie. She like has this moment where she like flies. And so I'm like, what are we talking about here?
It's so hard to watch, especially because it's like, you know what's funny is the best part about it is I would almost prefer no attempt at continuity and zero continuity to an attempt and it failing at all.
Well, so once again, so the thing that DC does best, and the character that they've historically on film done best by, is the Batman universe and doing sort of standalone films. Like Joker was on TV the other day and I watched it, and it was the first time I'd seen it since the theater, and I was like, it's crazy that this is a Batman universe movie, because it's just crazy. You're watching the movie, it's like, this is just like a straight up by the numbers drama. This is just a psychological drama. Like, it is a
exactly. The only thing is like the names Gotham, Thomas Wayne. It could be fucking anybody.
It could be, and it's wild, but and if you take all that stuff away, that stuff almost serves as a distraction from the film, to be honest.
Yeah.
If you take all that stuff away, it's probably a better film. Actually, it's probably a movie that maybe wins like the Oscar. But the fact that it was like an Oscar nominated film and stuff.
It was not only Oscar nominated, it made $1 billion.
Yeah. And it was shot for like nothing. And
they actively tried to kill it. They actively would chop the budget in half to 60 million, something like that.
And this is where they thrive, is in these films. And the best thing to come out of FanDome by far is this trailer for this Matt Reeves movie, which just looks fucking incredible. It just looks like
that's the fucking, it's right there. Yeah. It's right there. Give creative people money and they will make something that will garner eyes and dollars. Like, you had the only executive that fought for Todd Phillips's Joker got fired afterwards by the executive who was trying to can it.
Is the problem that if you try to give this treatment to the other DC properties, it just doesn't work? Like, if you try to give the Batman treatment to Wonder Woman or the Batman treatment to Green Lantern or Flash, like, it doesn't hold up because they just naturally have a more colorful palette.
They're just that's the best. Exactly. That's the thing.
Too different.
They're so drastically different. And the annoying part about that is because, you're finally able to get these characters and give them personality, whether it be brooding or jokester. And all these characters, the majority of these characters are like these, I mean, especially going back to like the 40s, like Shazam had no personality. Shazam used to be, he was the boy, and he would say Shazam, and he would turn into Shazam, a different being. It wouldn't be Billy Batson as the grown-up, but the being he turned into was just another fucking Superman. It was just it was a magic Superman. And that's when they had that was the template back then. It was copy paste another guy with black hair, or in like another case, like Aquaman's case, blonde hair, white guy, blonde hair, black hair. That's it. That's all they are. They have the same personality. And now you get to a point where you can introduce these characters with personalities and their own senses of where they are in their world. You don't have to tie. It's so like red tapey to be like, Jesus. It's so red tapey. Yeah.
Maybe that's just it though, too, is that the Marvel characters just naturally fit together better. They don't,
because they're made to fit together.
Yeah, their worlds don't clash with each other as much. And then because like this Suicide Squad movie, it's like that's the right tone for a Suicide Squad movie. But that's maybe why what DC does best is like standalone films where they're just like, let's just try to get this character right.
The reason why,
that's a good tone for Shazam. That's a good tone for that movie. But all of these movies are living in different worlds, and
that's the best part is you can. The reason why I don't mind the idea of not everything, it's this idea of like, you don't have I hated the Superman cutscene at the end of Shazam because that's like such a half-assed attempt to be like, same universe. I would rather fuck it, nothing, and allow me to, like, I can just think up in my mind. You don't fucking own what's in here. I'll just assume that it's in the same fucking universe. Or same with, with the Suicide Squad is like, the way I looked at it was it's almost another comic issue in a long ass run. Ayers, which no matter how much they chopped it the fuck up in the studio, is the origin of the Suicide Squad, and then the Suicide Squad by James Gunn is just another mission in that group of people that they keep pulling from, and you can anchor it down with Margot Robbie and Joel Kinnaman and all them, and that's it. That's all as a viewer, like me, I personally need from it. I don't need there to be, remember that time we went to fucking what's it called and did that thing with that guy, and it just, because you're tying yourself down to, I mean, what's funny is until the MCU introduced the multiverse, they were coming up on that issue of, we've created one sense of a timeline, and sure, we were able to fit in, Captain Marvel with Brie Larson in there somewhere and all that, but we're coming to a point where it's like, we have to expand. We have to branch out and literally, splinter off the timeline to be able to play with these stories. And that's why you're able to get, as much as I'm so cautious about it, the upcoming Spider-Man movie. And that's where like experimentation comes from. And that's where hopefully creative experimentation comes from. And that's the thing that I hate about like, the talks about like a Joker 2. It's like, I've seen what happened when Todd Phillips got a shit ton of money from a studio to make a sequel, and it's called The Hangover 2, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
How many times has that happened? Or like the entire Paranormal Activity franchise.
But what would you do if you're watching the Batman on March 4th and there's a scene where he's in Arkham Asylum or something and he passes by a room and it's Joaquin Phoenix? Yeah.
I would be surprised because I'm not getting that vibe from this one.
Yeah,
I think you can also always tell. I mean, not only just like obviously when they allude towards other shit, but you can always tell when something is going to like lean into another lane. And this is so distinctly unlike anything else.
It really feels like Matt Reeves is doing what Christopher Nolan did. But in not the same way that Chris Nolan did it.
Another shade.
Just going like, I just want to take my crack at this universe and this character, and this is what I would do if I made a Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they're letting him make just his Batman movie the same way that they let Chris Nolan just like make his Batman movie. And Matt Reeves is such a great guy to do this. And God, everything in that trailer is gorgeous. And it just, to me, it looks like
it's unfair how good it all looks like connects.
It's so gorgeous. And then it's the most exciting superhero trailer I've seen since The Dark Knight. I remember when The Dark Knight trailer dropped and people were just like, that's gonna be the best movie ever. And this trailer, I've watched it like 4 times because I've just been like, this trailer is crazy. It's crazy. And it doubles down on the concepts from the Nolan verse, where it's like everything's very practical in the suit. You look at Pattinson's suit, it's like, oh, that's armor. That's like, he's got like thick plated armor that can take machine gun fire.
That's, I love that everything is like it's like a broken mirror. Everything is just a slight reflection of everything else. And that's where you're able to lean into different types. Like it is like the whole, Reeves talked about how they wanted to do a grounded Batman. And in some way it's grounded, but I still feel like when I look at all the Batman, Bales would be the one that exists in our world.
Yeah.
Bales would be the one that it's like, something about it is it just seems so much, it's weird to say realistic, but it seems like that if you were wanting to be a Batman, that's the way to do it. And then you look at Snyder's, and while I love Snyder's, it's a more extravagant world.
Has to be. It has to be because
exactly
because he exists with Superman and Wonder Woman,
but the best part about it being that extravagant world where it's like it's just another notch up. You can play with those ideas of like, and his costume, it looks like it looks like thread over, like it looks like a cloth over metal, or a cloth over like just his natural body, and that is another cool way to go about it. And then to have someone be like, oh well, since that was like this one and now we're doing the next one, we have to make it like that. It's like, no, you can there's nothing better than a slight deviation, because there's room for creativity and there's room for paying some kind of straight line to something.
Well, I love the idea of like, just in the same way that Joker was very, very clearly homaging to Martin Scorsese films, that we just like was very, very clearly like utilizing those films as a framework for what, like how they wanted to structure that narrative. It feels like Reeves is looking at like David Fincher crime thrillers.
Well, yeah, like, that's exactly that.
Which is a really cool,
and the best part about that is I can watch, like, I mean, the one thing, the main thing people have been comparing to is Seven. Yeah. And I can watch Seven and be like, that is a like a refraction of our world, where it's like,
that's a Batman villain. That's a Batman villain. Like
exactly.
That guy that, yeah.
Exactly. There's an extra, it's eccentric. It's just above where it's like, most serial killers are fucking boring. So to have an exciting serial killer is just where it's like, you can have something be grounded. And then it's like, there's that extra, that's where the comic book feel comes from. That's where the idea of like, oh, let's not forget, I'm watching a film. I'm also watching a comic book movie, where you can pull from that little bit of ridiculousness that comes with a comic book. You know what I mean? Where it's superheroes and all that shit. And to have that perfect mixture of like, this is a young guy who's angry. He made his suit. He took a muscle car and he tricked it out, and he's got, and it's just, there's a part of you that's like, as much as that is grounded and realistic, it would not exist. And then you see The Dark Knight, and it's like he's using military grade shit because he's going through his company. It's like, oh yeah, I can 100% see a fucking Elon Musk or somebody like taking a tumbler out on the street.
Yeah. If we had a single billionaire in the world who seemed like they actually like would do something like that. But I
only trust Musk because he's fucking ridiculous. But
yeah.
I don't think, people are always making the joke like how Batman should just quit being Batman and give all his money away to like to charities and stuff. And it's like, well, that's the one thing that's impossible out of all these things.
Yeah,
it's because
yep.
Look, our real world is proof of that. Is you're not hearing about a vigilante, and suddenly everyone's wondering what's Jeff Bezos doing at night. You know what I mean? It doesn't fucking happen.
Yeah, no. But you know, I mean, so the DCU, it seems like will just continue doing what it does, and it'll just kind of continue sort of being this mishmash of like, you never know what you're gonna get. You're gonna go see every new movie and be like, who knows what this one is. And it's just, that's how it's going to be. It's just going to be sort of like a weird grab bag. And I think it's a good way to look at it, that it's just like comic book issues, that it's just sort of like some might.
I've had to tell myself to look at it that way.
Yeah. And I think that's how that franchise is just going to have to be. And then like, they'll have these standalone films that will occasionally come along that will be really great. And I have absolute confidence in this Reeves film. I feel like it's like gonna blow people away.
Like what's so interesting about that is like, you watch, Shazam or Aquaman made $1 billion, which nobody fucking expected. Aquaman made like 1.2 billion, and that's an example of like, you when a director has, I don't know, it's so hard to say give a director full autonomy, because as a creative person, that's how I would want it. I would want the Orson Welles treatment of like, I have last rewrite everything, no studio heads, that's it. And it's so impossible now. But when it's 60-40 creative control in terms of the creators, there's some sense of like specialness to it. Like with Shazam, like it's one of my favorites. It's so fucking wholesome, and it deviates from this sense of like impending world doom superhero movie, or like the dark gritty superhero movie, or the fun quirky. Like there's a sense of like emotion. You saw Shazam, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he goes to see his mom and his mom turns him away,
yeah,
that's a punch in the gut that I don't think that's a punch in the gut that in any other movie it would not have that effect, and any other movie would have to create a different version of that. That's what I love most about that, is being able to watch these separate movies, and it's a grab bag is a perfect way to put it. Like, will this one connect with me? Will this one make me laugh? Will this one make me fucking scared or whatever? And you know what? Like, we've seen examples of it working, and then you look at the MCU, and we know what's working for them. They're making almost $1 billion every movie, doing what they do. Let them do that. Warner Brothers, do your own fucking thing. Give these people their money. Let them make their own shit. You're gonna get a Joker. Like, there's a phrase where it's like, if you something about a flower growing in a rock or whatever. But when you actively try to fucking kill something, it's like, hey, maybe Paranormal Activity. I brought this up early on in my podcast. It was made for like $13,000, and it made I think it was the largest horror movie discrepancy in budget and box office. And then what happens now? We have like 9 of them that are terrible because of that one that was amazing, because now the studio goes, oh shit, people like ghost movies. Let's make 1,000 ghost movies no one gives a fuck about, rather than look at what actually made the initial one creative and interesting. And that's what it's like. The fucking Pirates of the Caribbean. They go, oh, the first Caribbean movies. I know what made all those movies made so much, why they made so much money. Johnny Depp. So they make another one, Johnny Depp, and it doesn't make shit. And it's like, maybe it's pirates. Maybe it's like, no, it's the combination and the recipe of everything in those first ones that clicked with everybody.
Yeah, they seem to not. That seems to happen all the time. That they're like guessing at what was it that worked. It is a business, you know. They got to do what they know is going to make money and stuff. But yeah, having a plan, and it's like we said earlier, that it's just like the formula is pretty clear if you look at the MCU, that it's just like planning. You know, look at really good TV shows too, where it's
Kevin
just
Feige, man.
Like having a plan for where your TV show wants to go, like for the beginning, middle, and end. You see what happens with a lot of TV shows that start out great and then wind up sort of fizzling out, or people lose interest, and it's because like they were never intended to be 8 or 9 seasons long.
I do have an example
of one of those.
I have an example of one thing where planning without any improvisation kind of gets you fucked. How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
They filmed the last shot of the movie when they were filming the pilot episode. Wow. And that yeah, did you know that?
Well, the problem with that show to me always was that it was too long. Yeah. It's too long. It was just like it's one of those concepts that's like, okay, you maybe got 3 or 4 seasons to tell this story. Like maybe, then that's stretching it. And then they stretched it to like 10 or something like that. I think
9. And the 9th one is so bad. And
so it's just kind of like it's too many. It's too you need to have a beginning, middle, and end. The
creators of that show were like, we know how it's going to end, but also before they know it's going to go 9 years. Yeah. Which means that they were not expecting it to go 9 years, which means that like 3 ahead, they were like, all right, and then we'll substitute this thing in and that'll be it.
The hot show right now is Ted Lasso, and Bill Lawrence, who runs that show, has said that it's a 4-season show, and that's what it is. And I'm really enjoying getting into these characters and stuff. Season 2 just ended, but I'm like, even as I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, you've got like maybe 2 more seasons to finish telling this story. Because, and please do not do the thing that and I get it. It's like, it's people's jobs. Like, people can stay employed if they go, shit, Apple's willing to fund 6 more seasons of this, you know, and we can just figure out as a writing staff what that means, you know, and people stay employed, the writers stay employed, the crew stays employed, the actors stay employed, but the story suffers and the overall memory of the thing suffers. And I feel like if you got a plan for a 4-season show, and especially it's a sports drama. It's like this.
Exactly.
It's this show about like a team that needs to come together and figure. So it's like, well, at some point they've got to like figure out a way to get into the championship or whatever it is of the Premier League. And that's where it's got to be headed. and you got to get to that. You got to get through that, you know, and I don't know. The temptation with television is just to keep it going just because it makes money. And you see that same thing with movies. But if you're going to do that, if you're going to franchise something out, especially something like the DC extended universe, it's like the plan from the get-go, from making Man of Steel was, let's give Marvel a run for their money. Okay, cool. Off to a really good start, really great starting point. Just like, ooh, what a
the main issue with that is that was not Zack Snyder's plan. That was Warner Brothers' plan. I mean, obviously, like from a studio point, they were like, all right, well, we're gonna make. We see, you know, Disney, Marvel making a bunch of fucking money doing these super movies. Let's do our own. Zack Snyder here make Man of Steel. He makes Man of Steel, but little do they know he has his own. And here's my problem with that too. When it comes to the Snyder stuff, is like there has to be some expectation from a filmmaker standpoint. At least I would imagine, to be like, I'm not going to be able to do everything I want. And it sucks, and I fucking hate it, because you should, from at least that's what I think, you should be able to pull all the stops for this for your vision and all that. And I hate saying vision now because it's so fucking overused. But you should be able to. But it's the harsh reality is you won't. So maybe don't plan. He had a 6-movie plan.
Don't put a nightmare sequence in the second movie where no one knows what the fuck you're talking about. Where everyone's like, what is this? And it's like, so no, hard. It'll make sense in 4 movies. It's like, oh, well, like that doesn't help me sitting in the theater now with
and this. there's a future, there's a timeline where that all exists, and I can watch the 6th movie and go, oh, that's so cool. But it doesn't make any narrative sense when I'm in the theater watching that movie in 2016. Now, and it's so like disappointing.
I don't mind going straight to Batman and Superman in the second movie. I think that a better move probably would have gone, each one of those characters gets a standalone. You go Man of Steel, and then you go like, you know, like the Batman. And then at the end of the Batman, the fight in Metropolis is happening, and he's like, holy shit. And it's like, and the implication being it's a whole new you know, and we get to see a Batman movie in that sort of more heightened state that you're talking. Obviously the Batfleck character is a more heightened thing. He's a little bit more superhuman than the other Batmans because he just has to be. He
has to be in order to compete in that world.
Yeah. And he's got tools that are a little bit more just like crazy, like his stuff is, you know, and
it's so comic booky.
But I'd be happy to watch a movie with that character, a standalone movie like that feels a little bit more heightened, like that feels, you know.
There's another problem in that, is that because of Snyder's vision, a bunch of other shit was supposed to splinter off. There was supposed to be, I mean, you know, Ben Affleck and his alcoholism kind of also fucked with that too. But he was supposed to do his own he was supposed to direct and write his own Batman movie,
right,
connected to Snyder's. And the Suicide Squad, if they didn't fuck with Ayers, was supposed to connect into Zack Snyder's Justice League before it was called Zack Snyder's Justice League. And there's a plan there, and then that's where as muddled as the narrative is, that's where the studio intervention comes in, and they go, no, you know what? We know what people like. This Joss Whedon guy, come in and completely change the aesthetic of everything. Come in and literally give like what's the like a facelift to these movies, because the other ones that you did, those made money. So do that to these. And guess what? Nobody likes either now. Now you have no financial fucking return, and you have no critical or like fan return. And now it's a fucking mess.
Right.
And that's where
and it's been a mess ever since. It's now kind of an unsalvageable mess, because now what you're doing is you're throwing darts at a dartboard and just going, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And now it's just, and now it's the grab bag franchise. Now it's just sort of whatever, you know, we'll just try different ideas, and there's not really, it doesn't really seem like there's an attempt to like get it back on track. It seems like they've almost like resigned themselves to being like, it is what it is. And so like, here comes Michael Keaton and stuff, because we heard that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are going to be in the Spider-Man movies. You know,
apparently. Well, here's the thing. I that's exactly that. It's those 2 movies. It's hilarious how they're going to apparently, and I think this is true. Machete was approached like a while ago. Like the Flash movie has been so fucking up in the air for the last 4 years.
Yeah,
because you know directors sign on and they dip, and no one really wants to do anything. And then all this stuff going on with the abuse allegations behind 2017's Justice League, and the splintering off of Ray Fisher, and studio execs being like, you know what, fine, we're going to make it without this idea of having it connect. And so they bring in one of their, Warner Brothers brings in one of their best filmmakers right now, which, I mean, say what you want about the It movies, they made money, people, I guess, generally enjoy them. So they bring that guy on, and he's confirmed, like, I mean, obviously at this point, what did you think of that teaser? Because I enjoyed that personally.
No, I enjoy it. Again, I feel like it's gonna be a little hollow for me. It's gonna be a little bit like, I would like this so much more if there was a better foundation that it was standing on. I'm gonna try to enjoy it the way that you've talked about it. That it's just another issue, and that I get to watch Barry Allen sort of lead a film, which I'm excited, because I think Ezra Miller's good as that character. I think the movie looks fun. It looks like they're going to do some interesting things narratively.
It's supposed to be Flashpoint, but not Flashpoint. He said it's a different version where it won't be exactly Eobard Thawne, or we don't know. Maybe the other him will be the idea is he hops into a universe, which I also love, by the way. I love that idea of time travel and timeline jumping, is that he hops into one where his mom exists, and rather than reversing his time to where he saves his mom, he hops into one. She's already there. Siri, fuck off, Jesus Christ. He hops into one where she's already there, and there's another. It's like the Marty McFly thing. It's like you got to get rid of your next self if you want to exist there, but it's another you that exists, and he apparently is already the Flash. It's like a fucking spider web that's not. It's like one of those. You ever see when they give a spider caffeine, and then the spider web is fucking like this.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. It's exactly that idea of like, all right, I guess I'll just hop on this ride for a while and see where it goes. Oh, maybe I like it, maybe I don't.
So I'll see the movie, and I'm excited to see like a full trailer and stuff, and see what they're trying to do with this Michael Keaton Batman. Like if he's like old, or if they're trying to like do some de-aging CGI. Like I don't know. I'm interested. It feels a little bit, like I said, it just feels a little bit like hollow. Like I'm like, man, I wish there was a better foundation for this character, so that I could be like, because I see the trailer for the new Spider-Man movie, and I'm like so much more excited, just because I'm like, there's a better foundation. There's just a better foundation for where it's now headed. And they've done such a nice job with the series on Disney Plus of being like, is everyone ready for the multiverse? Are y'all ready?
So good.
Here it comes.
It's
like they've done such a nice job.
Fucking amazing.
Instead of just being like, and here we go, multiverse. They've done such a nice job of like teasing it out and like giving us little teeny tastes of multiverse. And it feels like with the Spider-Man movie, it's going to be like, and here we go. And now this is the new direction.
And then coming out same time as the Batman, you got Raimi and Doctor Strange too.
Yeah. And so,
which is going to be, it's apparently supposed to be like lean into the. Well, I fucking love
like a horror
Raimi.
movie.
It's going to lean into horror aspects. It's going to be multiverse and
right. So I mean,
it's the perfect timing. Also, it's the perfect timing for the multiverse in these movies now, because it's like, for how long can we do these one narrative stories?
It's almost like DC like didn't want to just beat for beat copy the MCU, and I'm kind of like, I wish you had. I just wish you had just. And obviously your stories are going to be different. Your screenplays are going to be different. The tone of your franchise is going to be different, because the tone of your characters is just different. But I just wish you had just followed that playbook of just like, let's lay the groundwork for everything that we want to do. We've got big plans. We got big ideas of where we want to go with Darkseid and all this stuff, but let's make sure that everything's standing on a firm foundation, so that when audiences go to watch this story, they know what it is that they're watching. They're not just going, what are we doing now? Like what? Like when you go to that nightmare sequence in Batman vs Superman, second movie into your franchise, and everyone in the theater is like, I have no idea what's happening here. He comes out of the dream, and Barry Allen is in his office coming through some time portal going, Bruce, and it's like, and it's just, I'm just instantly like, what the fuck is even happening?
That is just one of those things that can be, that it can only, I mean, unless you like that kind of shit where it's in your face, that can only be appreciated in time. And
totally.
And when your ideas get fucking decapitated, well, now it's just left in the air forever. And that's why this fucking, and it's so, the reason why the idea of like restore the Snyderverse is like, yes, I would love to see the rest of those movies. You guys are asking a studio to give him like hundreds of millions to make a whole other like couple movies that it's not the same situation as release the Snyder Cut. This has been in a reel somewhere just waiting to be, like touched up with CG. This is not that same case where like he has to make old movies. You think that they're going to do that? And there's also like so much weird fucking bad blood between Snyder and executives. They actively like cut stuff from the Snyder Cut. They were like, oh no, we're gonna do stuff like that. Don't do it. And they haven't done shit with it. And now you know what? He's like at Netflix and he's happy.
Yeah.
He's over at Netflix and he's doing a whole other sense of like a zombie alien robot universe, and he's doing his own version of like Star Wars, and he's got these animated series going out, and it's like that is another example of like, I mean, it's also Netflix, so you're always they're just gonna throw a wad of cash at you unless you're fucking David Fincher from Mindhunter 3, but which I'll forever be upset that they're making another Stranger Things season, and Mindhunter 3 is taking 7 years. It's fucking infuriating.
So weird how they make those decisions. It's like, what is that based on? I swear it's a popular show. Like
also. The only two times I've seen Netflix be like, nope, is with Mindhunter season 3. And like, apparently season 2 was like incredibly difficult to pull out as well, like to get the money in for that season. And also the Avatar: The Last Airbender guys. They were supposed to have creative control, and they had like a lot of pushback from Netflix, and now Netflix is making this live action show without them. And I love the casting for it, and I'm excited for it, but I will never be as excited as I was when you had the original creators there. And it's so like, but you're gonna make the Kissing Booth 4? Like, really?
Yeah, you're gonna make 13 Reasons Why season 6. Like,
and like it's so funny how like the majority of this stuff, and it's unfortunate because it is a business. They have to make money, and it makes sense, but it always falls down to like some fucking horseshoe bald studio executive being like, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Yep. Someone who gets to make that call, who doesn't want to make that call. Yeah.
This was fun, man. Thanks for joining me, dude.
Oh, dude, anytime you want to talk about, maybe we'll talk next time, like something big comes out, anytime.
Definitely. Drop your socials in your podcast.
Oh yeah, people can follow me on TikTok, Twitter, or Instagram at yourpal_Austin. You can follow me on YouTube, Austin Archer. My podcast is called People Pleaser with Austin Archer. You can stream it most places where you stream podcasts.
All right.
That's
You
it.
can follow. Yeah. I mean, this was so much fun. You can follow me, Comedian of Cinema. I doubt that like new people are coming across this hour-long podcast that don't already follow me or you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But why not? Also go to Apple Podcasts and drop a rate and review, because that apparently helps, and I'm not asking for that enough. And subscribe on YouTube, Comedian of Cinema. All right. See ya.